"Get your hands off her," I yelled. And everything went quiet for half a second before my guest hit the driveway. The sound of her shoulder slapping concrete echoing up my porch like a gunshot. The head guard leaned over her and said, "Real calm. Stay down until we're finished." And then, as if humiliation needed a receipt, he rattled off fines like he was reading a menu. That's how my soft Saturday barbecue turned into a federal case. And if you think I'm exaggerating, you haven't met a homeowners association drunk on its own protocols. You know what I mean. It had started simple, the kind of Midwest evening that sells people on suburbs in the first place. Sky soft and blue, grill warming up kids on bikes, making loops on Oakview Lane. I was laying out plates and telling myself to stop fussing over the steaks. Maple Ridge Estates prided itself on order and neighborliness, the kind where you wave with 2 fingers from the steering wheel and borrow a ladder without asking. I liked that. I built a life on that steady, predictable nothing wild. And then this white security SUV parked nose out at the end of my driveway, idling like a thought. I didn't want to finish. I had already had a taste of their new posture the day before. 6:07 a.m. Sharp knuckles on my door, the HOA president, Aaron Whitfield, hair scraped back, binder hugged like a holy book. "Rich Carter, $500. Class B aesthetic, breach your trash can." Lid visible at 5:59 a.m. She held up a photo with a timestamp. I said I brought it in. At 6, she tapped a page and said, "You signed to comply," and smiled without softness, like the rules weren't just rules. They were a weapon. I didn't pay. I said I'd review the bylaws, and she left a carbon copy that smelled like toner and threat. Back to Saturday, my guest Tracy texted she'd be 30 minutes late. No problem. "I'm used to late," I told her. "Just ring when you arrive," and I kept pretending the security SUV meant safety, not trouble. Even as the driver talked into his radio and stared at my house like he had a script to follow. At 7:30, Tracy pulled up black sedan Blazer, sharp a presence that said capable without trying. She checked the number on the curb like any normal person would. And that's when 3 figures slid out of the shadows, like they'd rehearsed the beat. Head guard, Jake Morrison in front. 2 others, Brett and Luis, flanking Ma'am ID. "Now," Morrison said, hand resting on a radio like it was a holster. "I'm here for Daniel Carter's dinner party," she said. "He's expecting me." "That's the problem," he replied. Chest out. "Your name isn't on the approved guest registry. Real estate espionage is a thing. You know, step back." She tried to step around him politely, like you do when someone's blocking a doorway they don't own. And he grabbed her by the arm, yanked her backward. Hard enough, her purse burst open, and her things scattered across my concrete pens. Rolling a lipstick. Spinning like a coin, she went down, and I swear time slowed, so I could see the exact moment his mouth curled into power for power's sake. Maybe crawling will teach you respect. I came out fast. Heart in my throat. "What the hell are you doing? Get away from her." Morrison didn't blink. "Stay back, or you join her. $1,000 for an unregistered guest. $500 for interfering with security operations plus administrative fees." He said it like he wasn't making up a number that could be rent for half the county. I dropped to help her. Asked if she was hurt. She stood with this eerie calm. Dusted off her sleeve, lifted a leather credential case like a habit, but didn't open it. "What's your full name, officer?" she asked, voice flat as ice. "Jake Morrison, head of security for Maple Ridge Estates." He puffed. "You got a problem with that?" She gave him a smile that said she knew something he didn't. "Thank you for the clarity," she told me, and left no tears, no yelling, just certainty. And somehow that was what rattled me most. Monday morning, I walked into the HOA office with my jaw set and a plan to demand apologies. This place was marble floors and mahogany desks. All that performative authority that says, "Sit small while we talk big." Karen didn't offer a hand. Just to be clear, Mr. Carter last night was a security incident. Our personnel followed emergency protocols. She opened her binder and slid it across page 47. Subsection 15C, emergency screening of unregistered individuals. After evening hours, you were notified by email last month. Ignorance isn't an excuse. Pay $1,500 and let's put this behind us. I told her I'd file charges. She pressed a button, asked her assistant for the litigation defense portfolio. "We retain Crawford Blackstone," she said. 3 years of court, $75,000. If you're lucky, or you can pay $1,500 today and get on with your life. The way she said it had that corporate smile that doesn't touch the eyes, the one that says, "We've practiced hurting you efficiently." I went to an old-school attorney, Robert Miller. Silver hair, careful eyes, and he did that heavy exhale. Lawyers do when the odds are bad. HOA cases are a grind, he said. Judges are tired of them. Proving excessive force is hard. If they claim protocols, and you can't break the finances if you want to fight. Prepare to bleed. And I believed him because he didn't oversell hope. He won my trust by not trying. But as I sat there, my phone buzzed Tracy. "Michael, are you free at 3? Come to 100 Government Plaza, 15th floor." I thought she worked from home. I thought a lot of things, and every one of them was wrong. Government Plaza is where big agencies breathe. You know, the seal on the wall. The kind of security desk where you speak clearly. Even if you're a choir boy, I gave my name and sat under fluorescent lights that made everything feel more official than it needed to. Tracy opened the door in a charcoal suit, and the room shifted him. "District Attorney Tracy Grant," she said, showing a badge that sparkled like the moment the truth finally speaks up. "We're investigating your HOA, and what happened in your driveway just made it a priority." I felt equal parts dizzy and vindicated, like the universe was saying, "Yeah, that happened, and you weren't crazy to think it was wrong." The evidence came fast, not because it wasn't there, but because it had been sloppily hidden, and Parker's doorbell camera caught the whole assault in 4K with crisp audio. The so-called emergency email had been blasted from a third-party sender that dumped half of them into spam. The minutes approving those protocols were cut and pasted. Signatures that didn't match. And the money man. The money walked on tiptoe, but left big footprints. Fines routed to Maple Ridge. Safety Partners LLC, which turned out to be a P.O. box, and a shell with ties to Karen's brother. Tracy said it plain. "This looks like a protection racket. Dressed up as safety, we're going to make it public, but this time with receipts." Karen tried to get ahead of it. She slapped a final notice on my door. "At noon, failure to pay, authorizes tow lien, and suspension of utilities by 5 p.m. My hands shook when I read it. I'm not ashamed to say that power can make you small. If you let it, and I almost let it then, Miss. Parker told me about the $1,000 mailbox fine because her paint was too cheerful. A veteran down the block said they told him he couldn't fly his flag. I realized it wasn't my story, not really. It was our story, and that gave me a spine. I hadn't felt since the day I signed my mortgage. Tuesday night, emergency HOA meeting at the community center. The room was packed, folding chairs, squeaking phones ready. Karen gripped the podium like a life raft and started rewriting history in real time. Recent security concerns reaffirm our commitment to safety. Suspected espionage, neutralized without harm. Morrison stood behind her like a bouncer at a bad club, and I sat third row trying not to throw up. From adrenaline, the rear doors opened. Tracy walked in, flanked by 4 federal investigators. Theatrics, just presence. Security, remove them. Karen snapped, voice finally cracking. Tracy held up her badge. District Attorney, court-authorized investigation, stand down. Morrison turned white. Oh God, that's her. He muttered, and the room exhaled like a weather front had just moved through the investigator. Wheeled in a monitor, and they pressed play. The video showed exactly what it needed to. Morrison's hand on Tracy's arm, the yank, the fall. That line you can't unsay. Once it leaves your mouth. Maybe crawling will teach you respect. The crowd went alive. Not chaotic. Righteous people swore without shame. Someone shouted, criminal. And still Karen tried. We acted within bylaws. Our counsel is prepared. Tracy flipped a page. Your counsel withdrew this afternoon. Here's the letter. And then she did what? The powerful hate most. She named the crimes out loud, civil rights violations under color of law, conspiracy fraud, falsifying corporate records. The agent stepped forward and cuffed Brett and Luis first. Morrison next. The metal clicked, and I felt my heart rate drop for the first time in 3 days. Not joy, not celebration, just the absence of fear. Like when your ears finally pop on an airplane, and you can hear again. I asked for the mic. Hands still unsteady. I turned to Karen and said, You told me to pay and move on. You called my guest a spy and threatened my home. Look at that screen and tell us you protected us. She started the speech. Compliance is non-negotiable. Residents signed the usual heavy words that fly like bricks, and Tracy cut her off. Residents didn't sign forged amendments. You used safety to intimidate and profit. That's not governance. That's extortion. And when the agents turned to Karen and read the racketeering count, her binder slipped open, and those color tabs spilled across the floor like falling confetti. At the wrong party, I don't cheer these moments. I don't high-five when someone gets cuffed. I just breathed deeply for the first time since that SUV parked at the end of my driveway. Tracy looked at me and said, You weren't overreacting. You were right, and there it was. The sentence I'd been chasing, and not just for me, for every neighbor who paid quiet fines to keep the peace. We ended not with a parade, but with a pause. Karen walked between 2 agents past 100 phones. The binder on the floor still open to emergency protocols. Like a punchline. The universe wrote people looked at each other the way communities do when they realize they had power all along and didn't know how to use it. And I thought about how fast authority can curdle when no one is watching, how quickly a rule becomes a weapon when the people holding it stop loving the people. It's meant to serve power without accountability. Ends here, I said in my head. And for once, the line felt true. You might think that's the happy ending, but here's the part that keeps me up. What if Tracy hadn't been Tracy? What if she'd been a teacher, a nurse, a teenager coming to babysit? Would anyone have listened? Would anyone have cared? Without a badge under a blazer, does justice work only when it's wearing the right suit? You know what I mean. I'm grateful for how it ended. I'm relieved beyond words. But I don't want you to miss the question. Do HOAs keep communities safe, or do they sometimes turn into something we never voted for? And if they do, how do we stop it before someone else hits the concrete? Tell me where you stand. Tell me what you've seen on your block, your fines, your crazy letters, your moments where a clipboard tried to make you small. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Argue with me if you want. I can take it. But say something, because silence is the only protocol that ever really worked for them.